The latest complaint. The crystal formations on Admiral Zephyr's desk hummed with frustration as another complaint notification materialized in the air above them. The crystalline being's translucent form shifted from calm blue to irritated orange as the holographic report expanded, showing page after page of safety violations. "Not again," Zephyr muttered, their voice creating harmonic resonances that rattled the office windows. The complaint was about the same human vessel that had been causing headaches for months. The Phoenix Rising, registration number Earth 7432, cargo class designation that somehow kept changing depending on which dock they visited. Officer Nexus, the station's six-armed security chief, entered the office carrying 3 different data pads. His gray exoskeleton clicked against the metal floor with each step. "Admiral, we have a situation with the humans again." Zephyr's form shifted to a deeper orange. What did they do this time? Nexus activated the first data pad, projecting a holographic image of a battered cargo ship. The Phoenix Rising looked like it had been assembled from spare parts of 12 different vessels. Mismatched hull plating covered the exterior, cables ran along the outside of the ship in places where they clearly didn't belong, and what appeared to be mining equipment had been welded to the cargo bay doors. "They arrived 3 hours ago," Nexus began, his multiple arms gesturing at different parts of the projection. Initial docking inspection revealed 47 safety violations, including unauthorized weapons systems, non-standard life support, modifications, and what our engineers describe as impossible engine configurations. The Admiral's crystalline structure darkened further. Weapons systems? They're registered as a cargo vessel. That's what they claim. But according to the dock sensors, they have laser cutting tools mounted on rotating platforms, explosive charges stored in their cargo bay, and some kind of electromagnetic pulse generator connected to their communications array. Zephyr stood up, their 7-foot crystal form catching the office lights and casting rainbow patterns on the walls. Through the large viewport, they could see the Phoenix Rising docked at Bay 17. Even from this distance, it was obvious the ship didn't belong. While every other vessel in the dock was sleek, regulation-compliant, and color-coded according to Galactic standards, the human ship looked like a metal junkyard that had somehow learned to fly. "Send for Captain Chen," the Admiral commanded. "I want to hear their explanation for this latest disaster." 20 minutes later, Captain Sarah. Chen walked into the Admiral's office with a confidence that immediately irritated every alien present. She was a compact human female with short black hair and hands that showed the calluses of someone who worked on machinery. Her uniform was clean, but patched in several places, and she carried herself with the easy posture of someone who had faced down worse things than bureaucratic complaints. "Admiral Zephyr," she said with a slight bow that showed respect without submission. "You wanted to see me?" "Captain Chen." Zephyr's voice resonated with official disapproval. "Do you know why you're here?" Sarah glanced around the office, taking note of the complaint reports floating in the air, the security recordings of her ship, and the increasingly agitated color changes in the Admiral's crystalline form. "I'm guessing it's about the Phoenix Rising again. Your ship has violated 47 safety regulations in the past 6 hours, Officer Nexus interjected, holding up one of his data pads. 47, Captain. That's a new record even for humans." Sarah nodded calmly. "Which ones specifically are you most concerned about?" Admiral Zephyr's form flashed bright red. "Which ones?" "Captain, you've mounted industrial mining lasers on cargo manipulation arms. You've installed unauthorized explosive storage in your main hold. Your life support system has been modified with components that aren't even rated for space use. And according to our engineers, your engine configuration should make it impossible for your ship to achieve faster-than-light travel." "But we do achieve FTL travel," Sarah pointed out reasonably. "In fact, we made the journey here in record time." "That's not the point," Nexus said, his exoskeleton clicking with agitation. "The point is that your modifications are dangerous, unauthorized, and completely outside Galactic safety standards." Sarah sat down in the chair across from the Admiral's desk without being invited. "Can I tell you why we made those modifications?" "This should be interesting," Zephyr muttered, their form shifting to a skeptical purple. 3 weeks ago, we were carrying medical supplies to the frontier colony in the Kepler system. Sarah began. "Standard cargo run, everything by the book. Then we hit a Class 4 solar storm." Officer Nexus looked up from his data pad. "Standard protocol for solar storms is to drop out of FTL and wait for the disturbance to pass." "That's exactly what we did," Sarah agreed. "But the storm lasted for 6 days. The medical supplies we were carrying included time-sensitive vaccines that would expire before we could deliver them. 200,000 colonists were waiting for those vaccines to prevent a plague outbreak." Admiral Zephyr's color shifted to a more neutral blue. "Continue." "The solar storm was interfering with our engines and life support. We were losing power, our air recyclers were failing, and we had no way to restart our main engines safely. So my engineer, Mac Rodriguez, came up with a solution: the unauthorized modifications," Nexus said grimly. "Mac figured out how to reroute power from the cargo bay heating system to boost our life support. He rigged up the industrial lasers as emergency cutting tools in case we needed to clear debris from our hull, and he modified our engine configuration to use the ship's magnetic field generators as a secondary power source." Sarah leaned forward in her chair. "Those modifications kept us alive for 6 days in a solar storm that would have killed any regulation-compliant ship. And we delivered the vaccines on time. 200,000 people didn't die of plague because Mac was willing to think outside your safety manual." The office fell silent. Admiral Zephyr's crystalline form cycled through several colors before settling on a cautious yellow. "That's impressive," the Admiral admitted reluctantly. "But Captain, those modifications are still dangerous." "What happens if your makeshift systems fail during normal operations?" "Then we fix them," Sarah said simply. "Admiral, with respect, your safety regulations were designed for ships that operate in safe, predictable environments. Humans don't have that luxury. We go to places where other species won't risk their regulation-compliant vessels. We carry cargo to frontier worlds, mining stations, research outposts, and colonies that are hanging on by their fingernails." Officer Nexus activated another data pad. "Captain, our records show that your ship has been involved in 17 emergency situations in the past year." 17. That's not normal." "You're right," Sarah agreed. "It's not normal for most species. But it is normal for humans. We don't abandon people just because the situation is dangerous or because the regulations say we shouldn't get involved." Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red as an automated voice announced, "Priority distress signal received. Research Station Omega-7 under attack by pirate vessels. All available ships respond immediately." Admiral Zephyr's form turned white with shock. Research Station Omega-7 was a deep space facility studying quantum mechanics. It was lightly defended and carried a crew of 300 scientists from 12 different species. Officer Nexus was already pulling up tactical displays. "Admiral, we have 2 patrol ships in range, but they won't reach Omega-7 for 18 hours. The pirates will be long gone by then." "What about civilian vessels?" Zephyr asked desperately. "Only 3 ships in range. A Centauri luxury liner that's not equipped for combat, a Altarian trade vessel that's specifically prohibited from entering combat zones, and—" Nexus paused, looking at Sarah. "The Phoenix Rising." Sarah was already standing up. "Admiral, permission to respond to the distress call." "Captain." Zephyr's voice was strained. "Your ship is not a military vessel. You're not equipped for combat with pirates." "Actually," Sarah said with a slight smile, "according to your complaint reports, we're equipped with mining lasers, explosive charges, and an electromagnetic pulse generator. Sounds like we're better armed than most ships in your dock." "Those aren't weapons," Officer Nexus protested. "They're industrial tools that happen to be dangerous." "Officer," Sarah said, heading for the door, "in the right hands, everything is a weapon. The question is whether you're going to let 300 scientists die because my tools don't have the right paperwork." Admiral Zephyr's crystalline form cycled through rapid color changes as the Admiral wrestled with the decision. Finally, the Admiral's voice rang out clearly. "Captain Chen, you are authorized to respond to the distress call, but I'm sending Inspector Quill with you to observe your operations." Sarah paused at the door. "Inspector Quill?" A new voice spoke from the corner of the office where a figure had been standing so still that Sarah hadn't noticed them. Inspector Quill stepped forward, revealing themselves to be a tall, thin alien with 4 arms and large compound eyes. They wore the pristine uniform of the Galactic Safety Commission and carried more measuring devices than Sarah had ever seen in one place. "Captain Chen," Inspector Quill said in a precise, emotionless voice, "I will be documenting every action you take for the permanent record. Any further safety violations will result in immediate suspension of your operating license." Sarah looked at the inspector's equipment-laden belt, then at Admiral Zephyr's anxious crystalline form, then at Officer Nexus's multiple arms crossed in disapproval. "Inspector, I hope you're ready for an interesting ride." As Sarah left the office, she activated her communicator. "Mac, Dana, prep the Phoenix for immediate departure. Emergency rescue mission, possible combat situation." Mac Rodriguez's voice crackled back over the comm. "Cap, we're still showing 47 safety violations on the dock inspection report." "Make it 50, Sarah replied, jogging toward the docking bay. "We're about to break a few more rules." When rules don't matter, Inspector Quill strapped themselves into the observer's seat on the bridge of the Phoenix Rising with obvious reluctance. Their 4 arms moved independently, each one operating a different safety monitoring device. The inspector's compound eyes tracked every surface, every jury-rigged system, every modification that made the ship unique. "Captain," Inspector Quill said, their voice tight with disapproval, "I must formally protest this mission. Your vessel is not certified for combat operations, rescue missions, or high-risk situations." Captain Sarah Chen settled into her command chair, her hands moving over controls that had been relocated, modified, or completely rebuilt since the ship's original construction. "Inspector, 300 scientists are about to die. Are you going to help save them, or are you going to fill out paperwork?" Before Inspector Quill could respond, the ship's pilot, Dana Kim, called out from her station. "Captain, we're getting detailed sensor readings on the situation at Omega 7. It's not good." The main view screen filled with a tactical display of Research Station Omega 7 under attack. 4 pirate vessels circled the station like predators, their weapons systematically destroying the station's defensive systems and communications arrays. The research facility was never designed for combat and was being torn apart. "Pirates are using Corvin assault ships," Dana reported, her young face grim with concentration. "Fast, heavily armed, and designed for quick strikes. They're jamming all communications from the station so we can't coordinate with the defenders." Mac Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, I'm reading the energy signatures on those pirate ships. They've got military-grade shields and weapons. Our mining lasers aren't going to scratch them in a straight fight." Inspector Quill looked up from their monitoring devices. "Captain, this confirms what I suspected. Your ship is completely inadequate for this situation. We should return to the station and wait for proper military vessels." Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind working through possibilities that no regulation manual had ever considered. "Mac, what's our cargo manifest?" 70 tons of industrial mining equipment bound for the Tau Ceti colonies, quantum drills, magnetic resonance scanners, heavy construction drones, and about 500 kilos of high-explosive mining charges. "Dana, can you plot an approach course that uses the station's debris field as cover?" The pilot's fingers flew over her controls. "I can get us within 2 kilometers without being detected, but after that we're in open space." Inspector Quill's monitoring devices began beeping frantically. "Captain, you cannot seriously be considering attacking 4 military-grade pirate vessels with mining equipment." "Inspector," Sarah said calmly, "you're right. We can't attack them, but we can rescue the scientists and make sure the pirates regret coming here." Sarah opened a ship-wide communication channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're going into a combat situation to save 300 lives. Our ship wasn't designed for this, our equipment isn't rated for this, and our safety certifications specifically prohibit this. Anyone who wants to transfer to an escape pod and wait for pickup, now's your chance." The ship fell silent for a moment. Then Mac's voice came over the intercom. Captain, my safety certifications can kiss my asteroid. Those scientists need help. Dana turned from her pilot station with a grin. My flight school instructors always said I was too reckless for standard operations anyway. Even the ship's small crew of cargo handlers and maintenance workers called in their agreement. Inspector Quill watched in amazement as an entire crew of humans voluntarily chose to violate every safety regulation in the book to help complete. Strangers. Approach course laid in, Dana announced. We'll reach the debris field in 15 minutes. Sarah stood up and moved to the engineering station. Mac, I need you to reconfigure those mining lasers. Instead of precise cutting tools, I want them set up as area effect weapons. On it, Captain. But you know those industrial lasers were never designed for combat use, right? That's what makes them perfect, Sarah replied. The pirates will have shields calibrated to stop military weapons. They won't be expecting industrial equipment. Inspector Quill's devices were now beeping constantly. Captain, modifying industrial equipment for combat use violates 17 different safety codes. Inspector, Sarah said without looking up from her calculations, how many safety codes does letting 300 scientists die violate? The inspector fell silent, their compound eyes focusing on the tactical display where the pirate ships continued their systematic destruction of the research station. Approaching the debris field, Dana announced. Sensors show the pirates are concentrating their fire on the station's reactor. They're trying to cause a complete power failure. That's it, Sarah said suddenly. Mac, can you reroute power from our cargo bay to create an electromagnetic pulse? Sure, but it'll knock out every system on the ship, including life support. We'd have maybe 10 minutes of emergency power after that. 10 minutes is enough. Dana, I need you to plot a course that brings us within 1 kilometer of the largest pirate ship. Inspector Quill stood up abruptly. Captain, you're talking about a suicide run. Even if your improvised weapons work, you can't survive a direct assault on 4 military vessels. Sarah turned to face the inspector directly. You're absolutely right. We can't survive a direct assault. That's why we're not going to assault them. We're going to rescue the scientists while the pirates are distracted. Distracted by what? Sarah's smile was fierce. By us breaking every rule in the book. The Phoenix Rising moved through the debris field like a ghost. Its mismatched hull plating actually helping it blend in with the wreckage floating around the research station. Dana's piloting skills kept them hidden among chunks of destroyed ships and station components while they approached their target. 1 kilometer from the lead pirate ship, Dana whispered, though there was no one to hear them in the vacuum of space. Mac, initiate EMP sequence. Full power to the pulse generator. Captain, this is going to overload half our systems. We'll be flying blind after this. That's what makes it interesting. Inspector, you might want to hold on to something. The Phoenix Rising's electromagnetic pulse erupted outward like an invisible wave of destruction. The pulse was far more powerful than anything the pirates had prepared for. Designed to clear interference from solar storms rather than disable enemy ships. Every electronic system within 5 kilometers shut down instantly. The 4 pirate ships went dark, their engines dying, their weapons powering down, their shields collapsing. But the Phoenix Rising went dark too, its lights flickering out as emergency power kicked in. EMP successful, Mac reported. But we've got maybe 8 minutes of power left. More than enough, Sarah said. Dana, use our momentum to coast toward the research station. Mac, prepare the construction drones for emergency evacuation. In the darkness of disabled space, the Phoenix Rising drifted toward Research Station Omega-7 like a ghost ship. The station's emergency lighting was still functional, and through the viewports they could see scientists pressed against windows, watching in amazement as a battered cargo ship approached through the field of disabled pirate vessels. This is impossible, Inspector Quill whispered, watching their instruments record everything. Your ship should not be able to function after that electromagnetic pulse. Mac builds things to last, Sarah replied. Emergency power, Dana. Bring us alongside their main docking port. The next 6 minutes were a frantic ballet of rescue operations. The Phoenix Rising's construction drones, designed for building mining, platforms were repurposed as emergency evacuation vehicles. Each drone could carry 8 scientists, and Mac had modified them with emergency life support systems during the approach. Drone 1 away, Mac reported. 64 scientists secured. Drone 2 launching, Dana added. Station reports they have critical research data that must be evacuated. Tell them to bring everything, Sarah ordered. We're not leaving anything for the pirates. Inspector Quill watched in fascination as the human crew worked with desperate efficiency. Every system on their ship had been modified, jury-rigged, or completely rebuilt to handle situations that no safety manual had ever considered. The construction drones were never designed for life support, but Mac had connected them to the ship's emergency oxygen reserves. The docking clamps weren't rated for emergency evacuation, but Dana was using them to maintain position while the station's artificial gravity was failing. Emergency power at 2 minutes, Mac warned. Last drone loading now, Dana reported. All scientists accounted for. Pirates are starting to restore power, the station's communication officer reported over the emergency channel. You need to leave now. The Phoenix Rising detached from the research station just as its emergency power died completely. For 30 seconds, the ship drifted in complete darkness, while Mac performed what he called the most creative restart sequence in human history. The ship's lights flickered back on just as the lead pirate vessel restored enough power to begin moving, but the Phoenix Rising was already accelerating away from the station, its cargo hold filled with 300 rescued scientists and their research data. How? Inspector Quill asked quietly. How did you restart the ship? Mac's voice came over, the intercom sounding exhausted but satisfied. I rerouted power from the mining charges to the engine startup sequence. Technically, we're now flying on explosives, but it works. That's completely against safety regulations, Inspector Quill said automatically. Inspector, Sarah replied, settling back into her command chair as the Phoenix Rising jumped to faster-than-light speed. 300 people are alive because we ignored your safety regulations. Sometimes breaking the rules is the only way to do the right thing. Inspector Quill spent the journey back to the station documenting everything they had witnessed, but instead of writing a report about safety violations, they found themselves writing about human ingenuity, creativity, and the courage to do what was necessary when lives were at stake. When they returned to Admiral Zephyr's office, Inspector Quill's report was very different from what anyone expected. Admiral, Inspector Quill said, their forearms holding different data pads, I must recommend that the Phoenix Rising be granted special operational status. Their methods are unconventional, but their results speak for themselves. Admiral Zephyr's crystalline form shifted to a surprised green. Inspector, what about the safety violations? Sometimes, Inspector Quill replied, looking at the rescued scientists being reunited with their families on the station's observation deck. Safety isn't about following rules. Sometimes it's about having the courage to break them when lives depend on it. Captain Sarah Chen and her crew received the Galactic Medal of Honor for their rescue of Research Station Omega-7. The Phoenix Rising was granted unlimited operational clearance to travel anywhere in galactic space, with a special notation in their file. Human vessel. Expect creative solutions to impossible problems. And Inspector Quill requested a permanent transfer to work with human ships, fascinated by a species that treated safety regulations as suggestions rather than limitations.